My name is Oshifesolu Larry. I'm a mechanic. Welcome to Exxon F1, also known as from Lawon, Colum, Africa.
What a race. What a race. See, let's start from the most important things. One Nigerian singer said, we talk about the big things, oh, before we talk about the small things, oh. That race was very interesting, and I'll talk about the first lap first, then I'll quickly jump into why that was so. Now, on the first lap, we all know that Max Verstappen has had a very bad starting procedure all year long. It's only once in a while that he gets his starting procedure right. That is bad start haunted him today, but the only recovery for him is, they are the fastest car on the track. And remember I said something yesterday that other manufacturers are catching up, in which we are seeing how well they are catching up. But today we saw who has caught up most, and we saw where others are. So looking at how Max Verstappen started, it started slow. Lando Norris was able to binge him on the first corner, and that was it. Lando Norris was ahead. Remember, for the first 3-4 laps there will be no DRS. Lando Norris was able to build a buffer from the third lap to give over a 1 second gap. But as developed as the new upgrade that McLaren has brought, they still have a deficit on the straights and the low speed corners. But on the high speed corners, they are fast. They're able to maintain a very good speed. But the Red Bull is blightingly fast. Even without DRS, on the straights, they are fast. But the McLaren are able to slip away out of the drag on the fast speed corners, which helped Lando Norris all through the race. So that was wonderful for him. He was able to get ahead, but by lap 6, he was being hunted with DRS by Max Verstappen, and it was so easy to pass him. He didn't even struggle. The two McLarens were blitzingly fast. They were blighting. They were just ahead. The McLaren are now ahead of Mercedes, far ahead of Aston Martin and Ferrari. They are chipping away the time from the Red Bull. Normally, on a race like that, Max Verstappen would have been binging like a second, 7/10 from everybody, and he would have developed like 24 seconds in 20 laps or in 30 laps. But this one, he was only able to be binging 3/10, 2/10 per lap. Before the safety car came out, it was just like 8 seconds ahead. Yeah, 8 seconds is much in F1. It's like a whole year in F1, but compare it to 20 seconds. He himself knew he struggled, and these guys are closer to them. And one thing Red Bull have tried to manage is they've not really developed their car. Now that everybody's catching up with them, I believe they'll wait till the middle of the season, then start developing again, because they're trying to manage their development time, in which they've cut down, and also their CFD and their wind tunnel time, so that they can develop again and get the best out. That I know that is what they are doing. But with McLaren catching up, Mercedes too are still like about 5 to 7/10 away from them. They've caught up, but Mercedes said they still have a bigger upgrade to bring, which I know. I thought they would be bringing side pods, better floor, but they only tweaked their floor. They brought only front wings. They only tweaked the floor. Now, if that is what they are doing, they still need to learn about that front wing, because we can see the performance of the car was woeful on Friday. But overnight, Mercedes, they are smart. I believe what Mercedes is doing is this: when they are developing, in which they use their reserve drivers to do, when they are bringing an update, they've worked on the update from learning from what they have to develop the update. So when they are developing that update and they are getting data from the two drivers, the reserve driver will be in the factory doing the simulation. So they don't waste time on too much of simulation with that upgrade. So when they get to track and that update is not performing, they quickly send their reserve driver back to Brackley. That one will go there. That one will start developing, seeing what had gone wrong on the track. Before the night is over, they've learned why the deficit that update has and what they can do more. So what they've learned, they bring it to the track. They start developing another update. So they've brought to the track how to improve, in which other teams don't do. If some of them do it, they don't do it much as Mercedes. So on Friday, they were poor and woeful. But by Saturday, they were better. By this morning, the little tweaks from the data they have, and we know they have the race pace. They're able to keep up. See Lewis Hamilton and George Russell being able to compete with the Ferraris. Aston Martins and Ferrari were not the problem of McLaren. Their McLarens were so competitive, and the Mercedes were so competitive, but they were not on the same level with McLaren today. In 2 weeks' time, when we meet in Hungary on the Hungaroring, we will see that the Mercedes would have developed more. They might be very close to the McLaren, and the McLaren would have learnt more from their front wings and the update they brought, and they'll bring more updates. So now the two of them would get much more closer to the Red Bull, and I know the Red Bull will now change the gear by the middle of the season. When we are coming back from the season break, the Red Bull will change gear and they will improve their timing, because they will develop. A lot of teams, they've really learned this year. So next year will be very tough for Red Bull. Like, the race will be very interesting. So let's go back to the race. The race was so interesting today. The battle between the Mercedes, the Aston Martin, the Ferrari was just off the hook. Then the only one battle that we saw up front was the Red Bull and the McLaren. It was so beautiful. But in the long run, Max Verstappen won the race. We had Ocon out due to the car losing hydraulics, and they had to park the car. Magnussen, his engine stopped and it was on fire. Then Gasly was pinched by Stroll, and For Stroll's pain, he was given 5 seconds penalty. He was out of the point already. With 5 seconds, he was more out of the point. But Gasly had to retire because that broke his rear suspension. Those that were out of the race. But the rest gave good account of themselves. The issue that McLaren were having in the beginning of the season on not being able to light up the tires very well. I said that in one of our videos in Azerbaijan, in Spain also, that they find it difficult to light up their tires. But here, even their tires came alive. It took Ferrari 3 good laps to light up their tires. But that McLaren, just some few corners, the tires were alive. Even George Russell was like, is it that fast? These cars are fast and they can get their tires working. The tires were working against their own soft tires. That was why Lewis Hamilton was unable to overtake Lando Norris. We know the soft tires are faster tires. He was unable to tackle him, to struggle with him, to fight with him, to overtake him, because aside from Lando Norris drive exclusively well, he defended Hamilton, but the tires were working well. And towards the end of the race, Lewis Hamilton's tire fell off, but it was close to the end of the race. Oscar Piastri could not get close to him. It was just about 7/10 away from him, but he struggled to the end. So the Mercedes will look at all these things to know what they will do. And like we see, the Silverstone track is chassis dependent. It's not engine dependent. I said the Mercedes engine is a powerful engine. I think the Mercedes engine is still one of the best engines last season and this season. The Ferrari too have a very powerful engine, but when you look at reliability, the Mercedes engine have been so reliable, very dependent. They hardly fail. They've not put Red Bull on their toes. If they put Red Bull on their toes, we would know that those engines that they carry at their back can fly away. But for the Mercedes, we can see that when these teams, Aston Martin, McLaren, even Williams, the Williams today were outstanding. Alex Albon drove his life out. He was just on it. He was able to fight with Ferrari. At the point, he fought with the Red Bull of Sergio Perez, but he was unable to hold him up. But he did his best to give him a fight of his life. So with that Mercedes engine, the engine is really performing. Now, for a chassis-dependent track, we can see that those that have improved their chassis, they really gave a good account of themselves, and they don't need to overuse their engine. Like the Haas engine gave way because they have a good straight line speed, but on corners they are forcing their engine to perform, because during the qualifying you can see how much they put that engine through during qualifying for Nico Hülkenberg and Kevin Magnussen. And what happens is that when you have a bad car, you compensate with the engine. You want to use the juice in the engine, drive the car to get the best out of the car, so you're overflogging the engine and misusing the engine, and the engine will quickly wear out. And that was what happened to the Haas of Kevin Magnussen, and that is almost happening to the Ferrari, because they've been overworking their engine instead of them concentrating on their setup to get the best setup for their car. And I think with sequential development, you see Mercedes, Aston Martin, and McLaren in a big fight with the Red Bull. And I think that will be very close to the end of the season. We are looking at about 5 races to the end of the season. It will now be a drag race between those 4 teams. I hope Ferrari will be able to jump into that challenge and give them a run for their money. In some of our next videos, we talk about how chassis helps in gaining speed and helps the car to be fast, in which we are seeing the example in present Red Bull that even without DRS, the Red Bull can overtake any car. And we can see how engine, like I talked about in the Haas, when other teams are engine dependent, and some tracks are also engine dependent, some tracks are tire dependent. So we'll talk about all those and how it affects racing. But congratulations to Max Verstappen, a big congratulations to Lando Norris, because that is their first podium in Silverstone since 2010, when Lewis Hamilton came second in Silverstone in McLaren. And a big congratulations to Red Bull and Max Verstappen for his 6th consecutive win in F1 and his 1st win in Silverstone. And a big congratulations to Lewis Hamilton for attaining his 15th podium in Silverstone. No matter how bad his Mercedes is, he's always found a way to get a podium in his own race. And congratulations to McLaren as a whole for doing a good job and getting closer to the championship, because it's getting more interesting. Before I wrap up, I won't go without saying this. The Apex GP was on track all through the weekend. They were shooting their movie, and they were on set today during the driver's walk and the setup on the grid. They were lined up with the teams to take photographs, and I hope that movie will be a hit, a banger that we expect it to be. Starting Brad Pitt, Jibril Idris, and the host of them, the directors, they were there. They had a nice shot today, which makes more sense for them at the Silverstone Grand Prix. And also, it's so exciting for Lando Norris because he's still signing autograph at 9 p.m. in Silverstone. This will be one of the things he will never forget in his career. But as you all know, we always give you the best gist. We love you. And I want you guys to stay tuned because there are great races coming. Please subscribe, love, share, comment. I love you. Bye. Cheers.
We have a new friend in the house. We are in Nigeria here, West Africa. He provides internet for us. They provide the best internet around the mainland, and I know they are still moving to the highland and they are moving all around Nigeria. But for you to get internet on the mainland, contact Fibrad Telecom Limited. They get you sorted out ASAP. The best cable internet on the mainland, fiber, I think they get sorted out. We talk much about them in the course of some of our videos, but contact them, they get sorted out. If you're a builder, if you're an art collector, If you have a showroom, Pen Rated is the best place to get the artworks you need for your new buildings, for your art collections, for your showroom, for your exhibition. Pen Rated Art have one of the best murals, mosaic works, and different art patterns in Nigeria presently. And it's somebody that you can communicate with, talks to you, you tell him what you want, and he will bring the reality out for you. To contact Pen Rated Art, his number is right up here. And you can also go on social media links that are pasted right up here. So check out some of his works. Thank you. Teams Gadget. Teams Gadget is for those of you that cannot easily go to the market to get your phones, your laptops, your accessories. Just place a call through. His phone number is there. It gets you the best. It's your shop plug to get you the best phones, accessories, laptops, games, and other accessories for your computer gaming experience. Contact Teams Gadget and you get them for you.